Good evening.
So let me see
What can you do for us?
let me see if what I can bring up here. I'm having a little trouble downloading some of the attachments here. So hang on a second. Let me just double check. Allowed to record. Okay. All right. Let me see if I can make this work. Okay. Can you see that?
Yep.
Ideal movers and storage.
Yes, we're proposing a job site sign for that project, which is a storage facility that's already been approved, but there's no signage there. So we wanted to get some signs out there, get the sign out there and you know, represent some people as well. So there's also a drawing of the building that is on the sign from the architect's rendering.
So this is a temporary sign just during construction.
Yes, for the duration of the construction.
How long will that be?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I think at least a year, but I'm not sure.
That big mound of dirt is to settle the land. Is that correct?
Yeah, isn't that fascinating? It's
Yeah,
got
that sign will be there well over a year, Joe, because it takes about a year for the earth to settle.
Is that a billboard?
it's
Well,
a 4
they're
by 8.
allowed. I look at it as they're allowed one sign on the site for their business, and this is one sign for their business. Is it advertising? It's advertising Ideal Storage, and obviously those that are doing construction with them. I don't
And a bank.
I don't see that it's a problem myself.
I don't have a problem.
I don't know what the rest of the board feels.
Yeah, that seems fine.
Yeah, it's essentially a 4 by 8. So it's 32 square feet. I'd be proposing that for the planning commission. Excuse me, for the building inspector, and I'll put the application in.
Yeah.
It's kind of a public service to cut down on the number of people asking Dee Dee, what's going up on South Maple?
Yeah, what is that monolithic structure going there?
Base of a pyramid.
Yeah, it is. Can't remember.
I thought it
what
looked
called
high. I thought it looked high. I'm like, I don't remember the grades being that high. Now I understand.
That was what I agree with Mike. That's what when I saw them doing that, and that's got to be to settle the soil.
It is.
I'm sure. At least I was hoping that's what it's for. That's good.
Yeah, because I was like,
confirmed.
It's like, I don't think those drainage plans are what we saw.
No.
Where did you get the dirt?
Yeah, good question.
Well,
Gravel.
there's going to be a lot of dirt returned when it's all done.
I think they're actually borrowing it, if that's possible.
It's
If you remember, Home Depot did the same thing to their site.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I know he had to put in a tremendous amount of pilings, little pilings, like over 600 pilings throughout the floor there. So that's what's going on there. There's a whole, intention to make sure that it's very secure.
So anyways, any other comments on the sign? If not, motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
The motion a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You'll send along something to the building inspector's
Yes,
office?
I'll send out a waiver to the building inspector either tonight or tomorrow morning, so you can go and apply for the sign tomorrow.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
You take care.
Next up was just identified as iPhone.
Oh, that's me. Jim from Ace Signs.
Okay,
I'm proposing some signage for AT&T at 355 Russell Street.
Oh, over where the old eyeglass showcase?
No, they're going next to, is it Sports Clips and, what's next to that?
I've
new-
got,
Starbucks,
no,
no, that's on the WS side.
It should be on the south side, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Over-
355 is on the south of Route 9.
Is that over by 110 Grill or something?
Correct, between 110 Grill and Sports Clips.
Okay.
Do we have a picture of what's being proposed?
Does William have it, or how do I do this?
Well, let's see. Did you send me something? I really don't remember.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, and what name, what email account?
J. Carlin Jr. at acesigns.inc.com.
Okay. All right, unfortunately, it came in sideways here. Let me see if I can, manipulate this a bit. Okay. Back in there. And
And that was 355 Russell?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's AT&T.
Yeah, it's 48.8 square feet.
This is that, along that whole little mini mall that, where Five Guys and the rest are, correct?
Correct.
You're limited to 40 square feet.
Oh, we are?
Yes.
Yeah, if
Okay.
you're a standalone, if you're the only sign on a site, it's larger, but when you're a tenant,
I mean, other than the 40 square feet, your sign looks fine. That's external illumination,
Internal.
not permitted.
Isn't Sports Clips internal?
you can do the halo,
You can do a backlit, but you can't do an internal illumination.
right? So it can't be backlit or internally.
Okay, so it can be halo lit.
Right, right.
Okay, let me go back to Jones Sign and have them fix this.
Okay,
When's the next meeting?
2 weeks from tonight.
2 weeks from tonight?
Three.
Wait a minute.
First
Three.
Tuesday,
November 5,
first
Tuesday
Tuesday of
month.
February.
February 7.
excuse me.
Okay, so go down to 40 square and halo lit.
Correct.
Oh,
And if you just want to send those, send along the new design, and I'll pass it around.
And will get approved before the 3 weeks or?
No,
No,
Okay,
No, but it can hurry us through in 3 weeks if we've already seen it.
but just like the quiet gentleman, if you have everything meets, we'll give you an approval that night. You can go and apply for a permit the next day.
perfect. Appreciate your help, guys.
Okay? Good luck. Thank you.
Mr. Roberts is next.
Mr. You're muted, Barry.
Yes,
There you
I'm
go.
gonna allow Tom to speak in behalf of 303 Russell Street. Tom Rady.
Thanks, Barry. So two things. I'd sent an email on Friday relative to 303 Russell Street. The first was an A&R plan. So if you're familiar with this site, Barry he built the Harbor Freight building, has a good lease with Harbor Freight, and then had built the rear building specifically for Jeff Waskevich and Rayos. And as you know, Rayos is not operating out of that space. Barry's, as I put in the email, has been holding the bag for years and has struck a deal with the adjacent Subaru dealership to carve off and then ultimately sell that back piece to the Subaru dealership. And so there's, as I see it, two steps. One of them is to actually go through the A&R process so that he can convey parcel B to 315 Russell Street LLC. And then the second piece is the special permit that was issued. So this is industrial zoning district and also aquifer protection zoning district, was specific to Harbor Freight, which isn't changing, and Rayos Coffee. And so the request is to endorse the vote to endorse the A&R, and then to allow that modification of the special permit so that it can be used. And I think what I put in the email was service, automobile service, motor vehicle service, and then parts and general storage in that back building. The building's staying the same. They might have to cut in a separate garage door, a different garage door to get access from the 315 Russell Street site. But otherwise, the parking, the paved area is staying the same, and the building shape is staying the same. And Bill, I don't know if you've got the A&R. If not, I can show it on my screen, and then the site plan, whatever.
Do have it up, yeah, and I apologize. I didn't see this when it came in, so I didn't forward it around, but I can bring it up now.
I think we got a copy of it, didn't we?
Yeah, I got a copy.
Yeah, I got a copy.
I did.
It went into the planning email, your general planning
Yeah.
email.
I saw
Okay,
the site. I don't, are there building elevations or anything, or?
Nothing's changing, Mark. So this is something from.
No, if there's a garage door going in, you would come back.
Yeah.
so let's see. That's the driveway plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you'll see that there's lockable gates at the property line. So Barry had talked to the fire chief, and the fire chief wanted emergency access around the whole site. So you'll see that at each of the drive aisle property lines, there are lockable gates, and the fire department and police department will have keys.
On the east side of the Harbor Freight, there is that much room today, or is that changing the footprint, Tom?
No footprint is changing. Everything that's out there. So the paved area that's out there is out there. The open space that is out there is out there. The building footprint that is out there is out there. So nothing is changing.
Okay, I didn't realize there was that much room on the east side of Harbor Freight to the abutter. Okay,
Yes.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
okay.
I didn't realize they had parking on the east side. Okay.
So a lot
I
of
guess-
parking.
I've only parked on the west.
Okay, I mean,
Let me bring up the A&R No, I guess that is. Not
Yeah,
the
that's the A and R. What you had up was the A and R.
Oh, okay. That looks like the same as the,
It's essentially the same. All that's different on the first plan you showed is we grade out the remaining, the Harbor Freight building, and this one, as you'll see, doesn't have the access between because it's just lot line revisions.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So that doesn't have the connector to the east, and it doesn't have the fence or the gate.
The gates, correct. This is just for property lines, and then that site plan shows
This is real
functionally
estate.
how it would work.
So the only thing new is the 3 lines cutting through.
Is there an
The step,
easement
if
being
you will.
granted through the gate area or not?
Pardon me?
Or is there an easement to be granted through the gate here?
In the deed from 303 to 315, I think what Barry will do is he'll grant emergency access, and it's only emergency access
Okay,
because public won't have access that way. So that's why the gates stay up. But emergency, yes, that'll be in the deed.
Okay. all right. Entertain a motion to approve the A and Rs?
I'll make that motion.
is this, this isn't a signable ANR, is it? Oh, that is.
We'll have to check with Randy. Well,
Okay, no, okay, I see it now. Okay, yeah, that is. So you need a motion to amend site plan approval. SPA and Aquifer to transfer use from Rouse to Steve Lewis Subaru.
There's no, where the old building was, are they purchasing that too?
they own it. See where it says Frontage Inc.?
Yep,
They own it.
they own
That's-
it.
Yeah, it's a different entity, I think. Well, it is a
Okay.
different entity, but they own it.
Where's the parking gonna be for the cars? They were up close to the road, and that's kind of a new situation, so it's not grandfathered in like the old one.
Yeah, Joe, my understanding is that that parcel, that Frontage Inc. parcel was purchased with some foresight, given the Route 9 work. And so because the work calls for a steep slope entering the site, they may need to rearrange their curb cut. So I think that may be what comes of it.
Okay, we shall see. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the motion is to transfer use from Rouse to Steve Lewis Subaru and to approve the ANR plan.
Oh, all in one motion?
Yeah, sure.
That's fine. No, that's fine. Okay. Do we have a second?
Second,
We have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none,
So-
all in
well,
favor?
Let me just
Oh,
ask, this actually doesn't impact or it actually decreases traffic to the site, is that right?
Should be no change in traffic. on the
Yeah,
site.
because originally you expected a separate business back there,
Correct.
so you're actually decreasing. Okay,
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
okay.
Although I
Go.
do think we probably, since it is in the aquifer, we probably should have Steve Lewis come in to ask for waiver of site plan approval for use of that.
Okay.
So this is just a modification of the
303
Harbor
Russell
Freight,
Street.
Barry Roberts site plan approval in Aquifer Protection District. This is not creating permission for Steve Lewis to use it, because we're going to want to know what he's going to be doing in there. It is in the aquifer.
And so they're going to use it for motor vehicle service and then parts and general storage.
If motor vehicle service includes oil change, we'll just have to make sure he's compliant with the aquifer.
I'd imagine it's exactly what's happening next door. I think he's just moving some of those operations for a limited period of time, but moving some of those operations over to this building.
Yeah. And we're not questioning any of that time. We just want to have him come in so we can cover our bases and his, so that we're both covered by
Right.
just making sure we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Does the Concom have to approve that, or that's already,
No, the building's already built.
well, but I mean, the change of use from coffee to motor oil.
No, that's not Concom.
Okay,
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the site plan approval and for the A&R for the 303 Russell. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
You can
Thank you
come
very
in, you
much.
see Bill, Joe, or myself to get the A&R signed.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Josh Klein.
Good evening, Josh Klein, Stonefield Engineering. I'm here representing Chase Bank on a potential application at the Hampshire Mall. We do have Lynn Gray and Bill Mahoney, who are representatives of Hampshire Mall, on as well. So this was kind of, if you want to, I guess, Bill, if you could give me permission to share the screen, I can kind of introduce the project. But as noted in some of the correspondence, this project has been going on in the background for a long time. I think it's finally at a point that, it is moving forward. Chase Bank does a pretty extensive due diligence effort. And we've been working very closely with Hampshire Mall, over the last year to really get to this point, to introduce the application, prior to kind of making a formal application. So I will share my screen. So this is just the cover sheet of the site plans that were kind of electronically submitted, and I'll zoom in. I think everyone here is familiar with Hampshire Mall. So we have kind of the main mall building. We have Trader Joe's. We're obviously at the corner of South Maple Street, and then Russell Street.
Chase Bank no longer exists as its own entity. Is this just branding, Chase Bank?
So JP Morgan Chase and Chase Bank is still a retailer. I personally, in the last year, I'm working on about 18 active Chase Bank projects in the Northeast. They have branches, all over the state, as well as New England. So this will be a retail.
Will it be a JP Morgan Chase branch or a Chase branch?
It's the name of the formal legal entity is JP Morgan Chase, but it is known as a Chase Bank. The signage will be Chase.
Right.
How retail has moved, there's obviously a big component that is, driven on modern day banking. So there will be a drive up ATM facility associated with it. And there also is a financial planning component with the Chase Bank branch.
And you might add that John D. Rockefeller founded the Chase Bank. So John D. Rockefeller is finally coming to Hadley.
Perfect. There's a great segue for me. So, we have the Hampshire Mall property as a whole. We are really focused in this area that I'm highlighting on the screen, kind of at the intersection, kind of next to the Trader Joe's development. At one point in time, a portion of this property was parking, and it is kind of the kind of intersection closest to the road. Now, this area, there's this ongoing Mass DOT improvements, which has kind of changed the property, since the original approval and the subsequent, amended approval. So what I'm kind of moving now is to an overall, site plan exhibit that kind of shows the overall development. And then again, you can kind of see in that top left corner, the proposed Chase Bank branch. So the key here is that, based on the original property line, the Chase Bank was set back 50 feet, but there was a 18-foot Mass DOT takening in order to add the additional lane in the roadway. So we will be seeking dimensional relief for the setback of the Chase Bank from the property line due to that takening that went on. So as I kind of work my way, it's easier to see on the site plan sheet itself.
Josh, not to take you off script, but that
Mhm.
has historically been a snow storage area. I don't know, maybe Lynn could speak to where, if that's going to impact their plans for snow storage.
You're correct, Mark, and also too, I think there was a leaching catch basin in that area.
Yeah, so there has been snow that's been stored there. The site does have additional, open space. So kind of, as previously approved back in 2004, there was 26.1%, open space, and that takes away the detention facilities, the wetlands, reserve parking, kind of all of those different things. And this application, you're seeing, because of the scale of this development, a 0.2% decrease in open space, or really a 0.1% decrease in open space. So there's still plenty of available open space on site. The Hampshire Mall will kind of have to work with, its current tenants as well as Chase Bank for snow storage. And it's definitely something on the final plans, and working with the mall, we can show areas that they will be stowing snow.
Okay.
I always thought that area, because it was depressed, was part of the drainage system.
I thought so too.
It's a great question. So it was not part of the formal stormwater management facilities. So there are kind of 3 detention areas that were proposed as part of the project, and you can actually see them a little bit better in the aerial. Now there is some natural drainage that happens in this area. So I'll just zoom in on the aerial. So there is a detention facility to the top right. There's a detention facility on the right-hand side. I'm circling a detention facility in the bottom left. Now, the area where the Chase Bank is going was not a formal, detention facility. Now, this kind of open space, kind of the edge, along this property here, all of this area kind of drains, and there's a pipe that collects it, but there's no detention that happens. Again, Trader Joe's facility is picked up and it enters into the on-site system. So we did prepare a full stormwater management plan as well as a stormwater management report showing that, the new impervious area would be collected and it would be treated through above and below ground systems. And then it would connect into kind of the existing pipe where the water drains today. One of the big, kind of differences here is the DOT is adding a lane along this right-hand side. So the plans as submitted, we work closely with Mass DOT. We have their latest construction plans, and here's the kind of zoomed in site plan. So you can see that kind of new lane on the left. It actually, as I zoom in, this gray line here is the curb that currently exists. And then this darker curb here, that's going to be the new curb. So you can see the original setback of the building from here to here. This was the original property line, was 50 feet. But now due to the DOT, requiring that 18 feet, we are going to be below the 50 feet. Now, one of the keys here is we are maintaining from the back of the sidewalk or the proposed property line to the back of our proposed curb, we're maintaining that 15 feet. So we want to kind of make sure that we have enough room to get landscaping and meet that landscape setback along the front, and also be able to kind of collect and move, any of that drainage that comes across this front area.
Now, you're going to need a variance for this.
Right. Because
And where is your hardship? Because the mall was compensated for the taking of the land. So what is the hardship that they're going to propose to reduce the front yard setback?
Correct. So we will need a variance. We will be working closely kind of with our project team, as well as the mall, in discussion with the hardship. Again, the site as originally designed did meet the 50-foot setback, but in order for Mass DOT to add this additional lane, Hampshire Mall, there was about 18 feet of their property frontage that was taken. One of the other big improvements that is happening as part of these kind of overall Mass DOT improvements, and really kind of benefits the development as well, is that the current driveway, which is shown here on the plans to get in and out of the mall, is actually being moved down here, and this current is being moved further away. So now this will actually be closed. So the driveway is kind of much further away from the intersection and much further away from the Chase Bank. So there will be, that
Taking by
driveway
the,
won't exist.
can a taking by the state be considered a hardship?
Yeah, that's gonna say the mall was designed one way. However, nothing was built at this corner. The
Right.
mall was compensated for for the taking of the land. So, from my opinion, I don't see that there's a hardship there because your frontage has not been reduced because nothing was ever built. Therefore, the new building should comply with zoning.
Right, wouldn't it be different if they had applied before the state's plan went into effect?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, because nothing was applied for, I don't see there's any hardship. There's no reason why they can't comply with zoning.
Just not at that location.
right.
Correct.
Yeah, again, so, dimensional relief, would be required as part of the application, and that would be approval from the zoning board.
Is there a vacant bank across the street at the Mountain Farms Mall, the People's Bank, or is that?
Did that become the
Chicken?
Popeyes? Did that get taken down for Popeyes or no?
No, Popeyes was Kentucky Fried.
Oh, right.
I mean, I'm not trying to put you on a spot, Josh. I'm just saying that is a comment. And from my point of view on the planning board, I don't see there's a hardship. Okay,
No, I totally understand. I appreciate your comment.
so, okay, I mean, so are you just, this is just information tonight, I'm assuming?
Correct. We are submitting this kind of as information, and I guess, also kind of seeking clarification that we would need to, to receive approval from the zoning board prior to filing for site plan approval.
Yes, I would think so for that. You could do them concurrently.
Mhm.
If they also decided, but if you do them concurrently and the ZBA doesn't approve, then you gotta change your plan.
Understood. Perfect. So yes, this was more of an informational session. We've been talking with town staff for a long time on the project, but we did want to get the board's feedback, prior to making a formal application to both the zoning board as well as this board.
When is the driveway shift going south? Is that happening during the state project or?
Correct. That is part of the state's improvement plan.
Okay.
So you're gonna keep the bank parking area separate from Trader Joe's parking?
Correct. And a lot of that comes down to lease obligations and things that are kind of out of the bank's control.
Okay. So there'll be that one little entrance into the main mall parking area. Right?
Correct. There'll be a kind of a single entrance into the bank portion of the site, and then the drive-through would be able to loop around the site, connected to the building, and then exit out to the kind of the main drive.
Okay. I mean, other than the setback, I don't see that I don't see there's a big issue here.
But I would concur the setback is, that's a big problem because we don't want to get into the habit of changing the rules
Yeah.
under these circumstances.
If the planning board is of that opinion, the planning board has appeared at ZBA hearings to voice their opinion on the hardship issues, or, where is the hardship to enforce that? So.
Not to say that other folks haven't gone before ZBA without a hardship and been granted a variance.
But it does seem like an uphill battle.
Yes, it happens, but
It happens.
And that's
Okay.
kind of a busy area, but okay. This was only informational.
Yep.
Thank you,
Mr.
Josh.
Quinlan has a question, Jim.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just one thing I catch now is the fire chief would really want to know about the access with the truck. It looks like 12 feet or under on the west side, and he may have a big concern that he'd have to give a variance for that or approval for that.
Got it. We will look to kind of work with the fire chief as well.
Would he have a turning radius around the north corner?
Yeah, that seems like a tight curve, but there are programs that resolve that, and he can give you the specs for our biggest truck.
That's great. Yeah, we have auto turn, we have multiple programs, so we will be happy to kind of run the truck around. Any other, I mean, snow storage, I think was a great comment. Any other, I guess,
I
know,
wonder if you could mirror the plan and put the drive-through on the other side against Trader Joe's. And so then your building would be further from the street property line.
I think, there are many Chase Design team members that look at the sites, but yeah, we definitely appreciate all the feedback. I mean, I think, I know, both the bank and the mall are excited to move the project forward, but we do understand the concerns. I mean, it definitely makes sense. I think another question we had, I think probably Bill, for your end or for the board, is regarding the aquifer protection zone. If we're doing some final kind of calculations, now the underlying zoning is a 30% building coverage, but would this site be kind of subject to a 20% coverage due to the aquifer protection zone?
Well, is Chase gonna own the site, or this is gonna be part of the mall site, is it not?
Correct. It'll be part of the mall site.
So your calculation will fit in as the overall mall site. So that, you may not have 20% open space on the Chase site, but because you're part of the mall, it's all one big parcel.
Yes, understood.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else have any comments, questions? Okay.
Thank you, Josh.
Perfect. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
All right, next we have, let's see, who's staying and who's going. Okay. Sorry, you're just showing as EM.
Yeah, I go by M. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I'm seeking a special permit for a home business at 5 Lorana Lane. I'm a pelvic floor therapist, and I'm looking to see about 20 to 25 patients a week. We just got a plot plan done by Randy Iser, and there's 4 spots in the driveway currently.
What will be your home occupation?
I'm a pelvic floor therapist.
What is it again now?
Pelvic floor therapy?
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay, yeah, when you want to apply, we'll need are you on sewer?
I'm sorry?
Is your house on sewer? No, yes?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so we need the plot plan, what you want to do, a description. It's all spelled, you just follow into the home occupation section of the bylaw and.
Yeah, Jim, this did come in today, so I had not forwarded it yet, but I will just shoot it around now. So we do have the application and
I think we got it, Bill. I don't know how it's being forwarded, but I received something.
Right, right. Isn't it Emily and Ike?
Correct, yeah.
I think we approved a similar home occupation. Was it Farm Lane or Sunrise Lane by a couple of years ago? Right, so this shouldn't be a problem.
So, so actually you did send it to planning and you sent it to, Jim. So you
Yeah,
have it, Jim.
right. Yes, okay, I see it now. Okay,
So, do you have the, two sets of mailing labels or addressed envelopes?
That was not something I saw. Can you?
It's at the bottom of the application form.
I see. Okay. 2 sets of mailing labels, letters, 7 sets of site plans.
So we need to send notice by statute to your abutters and abutters to your abutters within 300 feet of your property line.
Okay.
There is a tool at the assessor's website that will let you calculate that. But also the assessors for a price will provide you with the appropriate labels.
Got it.
And which is convenient because you'll be right in town hall and you can leave both sets. We need to send notice to the abutters of the hearing, and then we have to send notice to the abutters of the decision on the hearing.
Great.
So we need 2 sets. If you pick them up from the assessor's office, you can just literally walk out their door and the planning board, the town hall mail slots are right opposite the assessor's door. And you can put both sets in the planning board slot.
Great. I will do that.
Okay, I will fill out the application with the fee and get it back to you. And just so you'll know, the fee is the price of the legal notice in the newspaper, the price of 2 mailings, and 10% on top of that. And lately that, because the legal notice in the Gazette has gotten to be very simply rather expensive, the application fees lately have been running about $550.
Okay.
And the legal notice is roughly $470 of that.
Okay.
So it's pretty, depending how many mailing labels you have, you know, that price will vary a little bit.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
All right. I
So-
will do that.
I will get that application to you probably within a couple of days. And I would guess because it's, well, probably let's tentatively schedule the public hearing for 3/21. I mean, I'm sorry, 2/21.
21.
Okay,
Great.
yeah, 2/21. And
There's 5 coming off of South Maple Street or North Maple Street or off of Rocky Hill.
Kind of connects through. It's about like halfway smack dab in the middle of the street.
Oh, okay.
yeah, Loriana Lane goes right through from North Maple to Rocky Hill.
Right. So my question was, is it closer to number
Oh,
5?
it's
has
closer, okay.
one of them, right?
Probably closer to the
Rocky
North
Hill?
Maple, but maybe
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty much in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jim, when did we ask planning, PVPC to come back? Was that going to be the 7th or the 21st?
We have their scheduled for the 7th.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I had put down a continuation of the discussion regarding Colony Drive, but the attorney had another commitment tonight. So I believe Mr. Jelinas is here just to follow our conversation on the payment in lieu, the concept of payment in lieu, but you're not asking for any action tonight.
Okay. All right. Do we want to bring up the discussion on the payment in lieu? And at least, I mean, get the discussion going, even if we want to wait for Mr. Jelinas' attorney to be part of it, or at least put his 2 cents in, but at least get the rest of the planning board thinking about this, because the way I've been looking at this payment in lieu, we kind of need to make, we can discuss this, but we need to make a decision. Do we want to encourage payment in lieu and donations, if you would, into the inclusionary trust fund to build it up? Or do we want to make it more of a real life cost basis on what inclusionary zoning might cost to truly build something? In that case, it would greatly discourage any donations into the inclusionary zone, into the inclusionary fund. The reason I say that is with the price of building, we've got, Ken has given us a few samples of other towns in the state that are donating into the inclusionary zone fund. And they're upwards of $200,000 to $300,000 per unit, spread over however many units it might be divided against. Let's say it's 6 or 7 units. If they're going to, for each inclusionary zone unit required, they're going to donate up to, I see a couple of, I don't want to start getting into a whole bunch of numbers here, but very pricey. A couple of other towns, a third of what some of the higher priced ones are. They're in the order of $60,000 to $80,000. So,
well, I think it may vary by which community you're in, because just the price of land in Hadley to build a house is going to be significantly greater than some other podunk community,
Well, all I'm saying is that these places that have a very high payment are in the Boston area. Their land prices is probably not much different than Hadley. Okay. Yeah. And same thing with some of the lower price ones. We're not comparing apples and oranges on land costs. We're probably close to comparing apples to apples. But the bottom line is, do we want to see the fund grow so that we can use that for, we're never going to actually build a house, but I think we could be using it to help encourage developers to put in inclusionary zoning as part of some of the developments. For example, there's the one in North Hadley. If they ever convert the old fire station complex into housing, maybe we could help them encourage some of that to be included as affordable by putting some money into that.
Yeah, we could pay for an elevator or pay to abate
you'll give them a couple $100,000 and say, hey, we'll give you a couple $100,000. You put a couple affordable units in there. Maybe it'll make the entire complex comply to the affordable. I'm just mentioning these kind of things to think about, because we got $750,000 in the fund right now, or close to it. Big deal. We could get 1 unit. On the other hand, we may be able to leverage that money into some of these others and get way more bang for the buck.
You just used the word unit, Jim. I think we've got to decide what a unit means.
A unit is this. Bill can kind of give us a quick view on that. Unit is not defined.
So it's not defined by the state either.
Right.
So for the purposes of the state affordable housing, any self-contained dwelling qualifies, whether it's a studio apartment or a 5-bedroom house.
But shouldn't it have to follow what the kind of the norms of the community are? In that Hadley doesn't allow studio apartments, so we couldn't
We do.
really say that's a unit in Hadley.
Sure, we allow accessory apartments, and we don't regulate the interior layout of the accessory apartment. If someone wanted to build a accessory studio at 900 square feet, they could.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I would want to encourage payments to the fund rather than try to harvest one affordable unit here or one affordable unit there. I've mentioned this before, but since we adopted the bylaw, this is the only subdivision that has been affected by it. And only to the extent of one unit. Now, Barry Roberts got, I think he was going to have to put in 4 units. But it was a different trigger at the time. There was an affordable component in senior housing.
How much did Barry Roberts kick into the housing trust? $250,000?
It was like 370, wasn't it?
I think it's 370, but it's not all there yet.
Right. He's got more to donate.
Yeah.
So Jim, you had said we had about $750,000. I think it's closer to just shy of $500,000.
Okay. I was thinking of when Barry gets through putting everything into it.
That'll be a 370, and we also have 100,000 from the CPA. So that'll still just put us under $500,000.
Okay.
But the issue with this development is that Peter sold off the lots and somebody else built the houses. Is that correct? Was there a different builder for each of the lots?
Yeah, that's perfectly okay. Yeah.
So
that's more the standard than we see across the street.
He sold the lot off, and I don't want to tell him how to run his business. And then somebody else came in and made the profit off of building the house. His economics get blown out of the water if we say that he's going to have to contribute as if he built 6 houses and had a profit on 6 houses.
Well, that was his decision. I mean, I'm not. The way Peter ran his business is the way he ran his business, and that's exactly whatever he decided to do. And we're not designing this payment around what Mr. Jelinas did. We're trying to design it around what's good for the town of Hadley.
Well, the town of Hadley, the trust, the Affordable Housing Trust can accept real property. So as an alternative to come up with cash, he could always donate to the trust the lot, and the trust could sell the lot off.
I don't know if Hadley wants to get into the real estate business.
Yeah, I don't think.
Not Hadley, it's the trust that's getting into it. That's our.
That's still the town of Hadley.
I think we can solve pretty easily.
And 5 planning board members could have a big say in that sale. So I don't think that's what we want to be in. But that's my 2 cents.
Well, if we don't want to be in it, why did we allow the trust to do it?
No, I don't want to be in the real estate business.
It's kind of counterintuitive to say that we would accept the donation of a lot at market value and then turn around and sell it without restriction from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Now, granted,
cash would come into the trust fund. The whole point
it would add more cash to.
What's wrong with that? It's either that or Peter comes up with a bunch of cash.
Well, I guess that would be a possibility. Well,
what do you think, Peter?
Well, on the flip side, let's say somebody donated a building lot to the Affordable Trust Fund. The building lot could be given to a developer for $1, sold to a developer for $1 on the premise that affordable house be built on it. But then who's going to be responsible to maintain that affordable house as far as in the following up on all the paperwork to make sure it does with that?
I'm not saying that an affordable house would be built on this lot. We
Well,
would
but
sell
hypothetically,
the trust would sell it at the market, get the cash into the trust fund. Okay, that's all I'm going to say on the subject. I think it's
So you're saying that that could be spent elsewhere, right?
exactly.
So it's the downstream that concerns me as well, because just as we have not had a great reputation about maintaining our buildings over time, you know, this is something, let's say hypothetically that Mr. Jelinek does build an affordable house on his remaining lot. He sells it. He goes through the exercise of having a lottery and contracting with CDC, Community Development Corporation or whatever to run the lottery. And he's done and on to the next project. 5-10 years down the road, the lucky winner of the house now wants to sell and move on, is subject to an affordable covenant.
Exactly.
They have to, in addition to hiring a realtor at 5 or 6% commission, they will have to hire CDC to conduct a lottery, which will come out of whatever profit there is. Because remember, they have to sell it at an affordable price based on the calculations in effect 10 years down the road. And we have no way of figuring out whether they're going to be able to clear enough to pay off their mortgage, which is probably like an 80% or 90% mortgage because they didn't have.
Assuming they could get a mortgage.
But let's assume they could get an 80. They saved a 20% down payment. They got an 80% mortgage. They have to pay a realtor's commission out of that, and they have to pay CDC out of that to run another lottery. And then 10 years later, the cycle repeats. And I don't know who's going to be watching it.
As I said, Rube Goldberg couldn't have come up with a better mechanism.
Yeah. The Hadley Housing Authority has told us that very clearly that they want absolutely nothing to do with keeping track of any affordable units that they don't own. I don't know who's going to be monitoring this. Is it going to be the Affordable Housing Trust Fund? Is it going to be the Planning Board? Is it going to be some as yet unfilled job slot at Town Hall to monitor our one? Maybe we'll have 2 or 3 affordable units to monitor by then. It just seems like we're going down a rabbit hole.
No kidding.
And you're right. It's very convoluted, and it's in the same family of when you start using the tax code to make policy decisions.
Listen, exactly. Well, listen, some of the best, smartest, progressive minds in Boston came up with this concept. So we've got to be something worthwhile about it.
Maybe.
Never mind.
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, never mind in Boston. 4 out of the 5 members, I think, are really pretty smart here. And we've come up with something like this that could have been better. So,
by the way, talking about the trust fund, Bill, I think we got to meet at least once a year, the trustees. Maybe we should put that on the agenda next time.
We do, but we are not ready to meet.
Okay.
We're required to have a member of the select board. And we currently have 2 ex-members of the select board who can qualify as community members, but the select board has to appoint one of their own before, and then they may even need to reappoint us before we can do anything.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to make one quick editorial comment. I think the town of Sunderland came up with a good plan. 62 and older. And they want nothing to do with the management. They want nothing to do with compliance with the affordability, et cetera, et cetera. So they've washed their hands and they brought their number up. If there are any concerns in the town that I hear, it's the older people have more difficulty sometimes than people outside the territory. So if you make it 62 and older, maybe you are serving the population that is asking for it. So if we somehow could follow Sunderland's, I'm going to try to get a copy of it and bring it to our attention. That may have some holes in it too, but it seems to have worked out pretty well. And probably it's not open yet. It's right in the center of town behind the Blue Heron, if anybody wants to look at it.
Yeah, it's nice. I drove in there.
Mhm.
I
So
was,
I mean, we were very noble in our effort, and it's not working comfortably. And we dropped from 13% down to 12% or 11.9% of our affordable housing that mostly had to do with Barry Roberts development. And we get in place of it the money that doesn't even come close to replacing the percentage. So I'll stop there.
Oh, I was just wondering if maybe PVPC could set up for one of our meetings that we could invite representatives from other towns that have done this repeatedly and successfully, and we could hear how they do it. Do they have a office of affordability that handles that? Do they farm it out to a CDC? How do they do that? Because the town our size does not want to.
Mark, I think we have the answer because Ken has not been able to come up with anything local.
Yeah.
He is bringing us models from Worcester County and East,
Right.
where they have been wrestling with this for longer. And I suppose we could try to find out how some of those do it. But there's also coming down, there's been a continuing suggestion that the excise tax, Deeds excise tax should be raised. And a portion of that, right now, a portion of that goes to fund CPA. The suggestion is that another portion of it could go towards affordable housing, even if it was only triggered by mega sales that over 500 or over 750,000. Boston is trying to get special legislation to do that just in Suffolk County. But it also is discussed as a possibility elsewhere. And that kind of would be the solution to what Mike was concerned about, that it's the pricing that is the problem. And if some of that could be redirected.
Exactly. The pricing is, as you guys in the legal profession say, arbitrary and capricious.
Some of the towns that have been a little bit successful, Mark, like Bill says, are in the eastern part of the state. There are also much larger communities that have full-time staff to address this issue.
Right.
Ken has not been able to come up with any towns anywhere near our size or slightly larger that have been successful at these housing issues, because nobody is really geared towards it.
Remember when we developed the Affordable Housing Trust document, we borrowed from Whately's? I'm going to give somebody over in Whately a call just to see if anything's come into that trust yet. I'm just curious, and if it has, how did they determine how much would come into the trust?
Was that the one we actually ended up borrowing from? We looked at a number of them.
Yeah, we borrowed a lot from Whately.
It was Whately's.
Yeah, there was a general form that the state has put out But Whately had modified it a lot as far because the general form allowed the housing trust fund to borrow almost at will and it could put the town into some serious debt. It didn't have limits on the amounts. And Whately had modified their, lack of a term, contract and had put a lot of limits in it. And we followed those with even some more limits that went a little bit further than them, so that we put fairly tight controls on the housing trust fund trustees, so that they can't put the town in a bad financial situation.
Well, I agree with Bill that an excise tax on sales is the way to go. I'm just looking at Florida and see what goes on down there, in case I ever decide to bail and move down there. But the fee comes on the sale. The seller pays into a fund down there, 0.7%, no matter what the size of the sale, residential now. So it's just a lot easier to deal with.
Right.
We don't have to deal with every developer coming in here, because really by putting the onus on the developer, all we're doing is raising the cost of housing. A smart developer will build it into the cost that he's selling the property for. That's,
I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. That is a fact. However, you know, as far as which way to go to encourage, discourage or encourage the money into the fund, the reason I brought that up is because I'm kind of leaning towards, my opinion, I agree with Bill. I would like to see encouraging donations to the fund to build that up and not make it high enough, but not unreasonable. That we don't want any developer, putting a hardship on them either. Now, what should the price be? Well, that needs to be determined.
Well, at the same time, we can't be responsible for the economics of a project that a developer comes in with. And if if a developer miscalculates, that's his problem.
I agree. That's why depending which way we go, it's either going to be a relatively high fee or a smaller fee, and it's going to be across the board basically the same. And this is what it's going to be donated. So if a developer comes in with this project, they'll know pretty much up front, once we get that fee, what they're going to have to pay. I would even be amenable to amending the zone bylaw that if it's 0 to 5 units, they should donate something. Because we could see somebody coming in and just try to get under the limit because they don't want to pay any funds into it. So if everybody paid a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, you got these McMansions going up in town and not a nickel's coming in.
Yeah. So, when is Mr. The attorney going to be available, Bill? You said the next meeting of the.
It could be either of the next two meetings. It's with,
I think the next meeting seems to be pretty busy.
With Verizon and PVPC, yes.
Maybe the 21st would be a good one, because I don't think that's a home occupation, the public hearing, that's not going to take a lot.
So Barry Roberts so far contributed $500,000 to the fund.
No.
He's contributed some portion of 370, right?
Yeah, his target's 370, and he has contributed something over 200,000. That's what I collected from his attorney after we created the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And the target is, I believe, 370, and we have 100,000 from the from CPA, and the capacity to ask for more from CPA, although that requires going to town meeting.
But yeah, CPA has a lot in their, they have quite a bit in their available fund for affordable housing. But we haven't asked for any more because we don't have any use for it right now.
So it looks like he's contributing here where I live, maybe 15,000 a unit. And I think there's 34 units going in here. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a little more than that. I forget exactly. I can find out exactly what.
Yeah, but remember that was 3 years ago, and prices have gone up. So the amount that has to go into the trust has to go up. So when I threw that 130,000 out a couple of weeks ago, back, was I in Columbia when I did that? I don't remember anymore. That was not unreasonable. I don't think. But we can't negotiate without him here. Excuse me.
Okay, hang on just a second. Let me just get that number.
Time to go out, Michael? Time to go out?
The dog.
Oh,
I think he's out already. So what'd you think of, I was bored down there, so I started to think about how many New York Stock Exchange listed companies do business in Hadley. And quite a few. I think it's upwards of 25, close to 25. And I think we could make the Ripley's Book of World Records. New York Stock Exchange companies doing business in a town per capita.
per capita. Right.
That's what I wanted. Sorry, just let's see. Is 24,000 per unit.
Okay. So then
But
the minimum Jelinas would have to contribute then would be 144,000. So I guess I wasn't too far off when the lawyer balked at that.
So that, yes, that is a calculation. That's probably something that would discourage any developer from. So it gets back to Jim's question. Do we want to encourage or discourage?
Well,
yeah. In an ideal world, you'd hit the scale right in the center and let them decide, but we don't know unless you have a scale per how many beds that may not even have bedrooms. Yeah.
Well, and that's where you get back to what you were saying, Mike, about do we have a definition of a unit? We don't, because it doesn't matter for state purposes, but the cost of the creating a studio apartment affordable unit and the cost of creating a 3 or 4 bedroom, 2 bath affordable freestanding house are orders of magnitude apart. And that's why
yeah, exactly. But if it's 6 times 24, 144,000, good luck building a studio apartment for that if you got to go in and buy the land.
Well, be aware of the fact that that's why a lot in Florence as well as in Amherst, they're doing this SRO, single room occupancy, which are euphemism for a flop house.
Not necessarily. I lived in an SRO in Houston once.
So,
but that resemble that remark then.
But that qualifies each of those units. So yeah, it's cheaper.
Right. That's where they're doing it. They don't care about the community and what impact it would have on it. They just want the numbers.
Well, as I said, I don't see how we can do a single room occupancy when, well, as Bill said, we can do an accessory apartment.
Yeah, I mean, we're 90% of the way there already.
Can you build an accessory apartment for 144,000? Including the land? Probably not.
Well.
Assumedly you have the land.
Yeah, okay.
Well, assuming, yeah, it's going to be one of those things that we're going to get. We are going to get unanticipated results if we push this, the farther we push this into uncharted territory. But I could see hypothetically my going to Dr. Zagrodnik and saying, I will give you, landowner, homeowner, I'll give you the money if you will let me convert your basement into an accessory apartment and put an affordability restriction on it. And I think I can probably convert the basement to an accessory apartment, satisfy the building inspector pretty economically, because I'm sure the house is in good condition overall. And the landowner gets a bonus, and he doesn't have to live in the accessory apartment. He just has to live in the main house.
Does anyone have to live in the accessory apartment? Are you going to go be checking to see if somebody signed a lease?
I suppose once we create it, well, that's the thing with rental properties anyway, that how do you, it's a supply and demand. Okay, you have a unit, but does anyone want to live in it? I don't know. And besides, he bangs around upstairs a lot, so he'd probably drive away tenants pretty quickly.
Actually, he would probably move downstairs and leave somebody in the main house. That's where his man cave is, down there.
We're hypothetically going into a rabbit hole here.
Well,
but I can see that.
We got a lot to think about, and the problem is we keep thinking about it. It doesn't seem to be a resolution.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And I go back to the fact again that this was, as Joe said, it was a noble effort, but for all that, we have gotten to the point of talking about one affordable unit in how many, 8 years, 9 years?
Yeah, you're right.
Since we adopted it. I'm putting aside Barry Roberts and senior housing. There's a different economy of scale there, I think.
Yeah.
But
it's almost better to let a 40B come in and let them take care of it all.
I like your idea of maybe 1 to 5, you pay a flat fee per unit. And then when you trigger 6, then we get into that other, maybe a higher number.
Well,
I think we can talk about this.
You're right,
at
Bill.
Our next meeting as well, because Ken Comey will be here.
Okay.
He was not able to be here tonight, and you were away last time, Mike. So it's I'll certainly have a spot on the agenda for it, but we'll plan on talking with Mr. Jelinas and his lawyer on the 21st.
Well, if we put the fee in on the sale in Hadley, you think would be sued immediately by the state to cease and desist?
Yeah, we can't do an excise, but if the state came up with one, the excise tax for a long time was $2.28 per thousand, or 0.0028. 0.00228. And it doubled about 10 years ago. So it's now $4.56 per thousand, 0.00456. You look at what that is generating, that pays for the operation of the registries of deeds. And it also is generating a pretty significant chunk of money for the Community Preservation Act. And if it were tweaked a little more, it's something that when it's pointed out to you on your closing statement, I get complaints, but as a practical matter, a lot of sellers are so happy to be moving their finally found a buyer that they don't worry too much about the state there with their hands out as you go by.
With the pennies on the dollar, right?
So
You're making Rube Goldberg turn over in his grave. Okay.
So we're gonna do our annual affordable housing trust meeting in Orlando, or?
we have money to pay for it.
I don't think there's an issue.
Our expense fund is like $550, Mark, so if we can all go down there for that.
Excuse me, the trust is a separate entity. We can set up some expense money in there. Maybe go to Florida and look at how they do affordable housing down there. I mean, what the hell?
So I will contact the administrator about what we have to do to whether we have to be reappointed. I don't remember if it was it's in the document, whether it was a 3-year appointment or a 1-year appointment, but we definitely need to have a select board member on board per statute. So I would suspect that the first time that they could possibly take that up would be February 1st. And whether they would want to just do a quick appointment like they did last time, or whether they would like to put this out for expressions of interest from others. We don't all have to stay on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund board. If anyone doesn't want to do it, there's no permanent obligation. It just made sense at the time that we probably have the most accumulated knowledge of affordable housing issues within the town.
Yeah.
I'll discuss it with the administrator and maybe someone on the select board and see how they feel about how they'd like to proceed.
And do the trustees of the trust fund elect the chair? Because Christian Stanley is the current chair, correct?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
And as it's fine, as he was a select board member, he was willing to stay in touch as a community member. There's no reason he couldn't do it, but we absolutely need a select board member.
Yeah.
That's what we don't have.
Like a boat without a motor.
Okay.
Hey, Mark, how'd that Tesla run up there in north of Montreal?
No
No problem?
Okay. I learned
Yeah.
some lessons. When it's too cold, it doesn't the regenerative braking kind of works its way out. So it drives more like a regular car instead of a single pedal operation. Because normally my accelerator is also a decelerator, and I have it set up aggressively so that like I drove all the way to Bradley without ever touching the brakes. At stoplights, at rotaries, I could just ease off. But once it's cold, there's a little icon that comes up that warns you that you're not going to get much regenerative braking because the battery has to be a certain temperature to recharge it. So, yeah. So I learned that. I learned not to go through Montreal at rush hour, especially when you're looking to charge soon. That gets a little, you start biting your nails, like, gonna go into a jam, go in with your battery charged. I could have charged in Burlington.
Right.
Lesson learned.
So I see that we do have, that we have iPhone, and previously iPhone was the sign guy, Jim from Ace Signs. I don't know if iPhone is him back, or I see we lost Peter G.
Yes.
So if iPhone would like to say a
Identify
few
yourself.
words, please jump in. Otherwise, I have nothing else.
What was the gentleman's name that was kind of just listening into our process? What was that young man's name? You remember?
Gnotic.
Gnotic, Jimmy Gnotic.
Oh yeah.
Under the heading of future town meeting topics, the acceptance of, let's see, I did send around my email with Steve Konechny regarding Birch Meadow. And
Is that on a future agenda? That
well,
sounds
no,
like-
we have an item on the agenda for town meeting topics.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've got two of them.
This is going to be on town meeting. And I just wanted to update, if you didn't have a chance to read my email to and from Steve Konechny,
Yeah, he talked about a curb box that he said the town fixed, and he said that he dug for two, what was it, cable, and he found that they were in conduit. And that
Yeah.
was all he said.
so no particular
Right.
issue. Now, Jim and Joe and I specifically remember hearing a story about the backhoe coming up with cables all over the place, but maybe this is why we don't allow hearsay in court, because we weren't there.
Right.
And the people who were there or would have been there don't seem to remember it. I think I mentioned I also talked with Dennis Pipchinsky about it, who would have been involved if there was a water or sewer work going on behalf of the DPW, and he had no memory of
Right.
anything bad happening along those lines.
WWTS. What would Tommy say?
So it was whatever issue was occurred at Birch Meadow at that point in time with the backhoe was evidently relatively minor,
Hmm.
and it got blown out of proportion.
You're right. I think it was a TV cable.
So anyways, Birch Meadow will be coming up onto the town meeting warrant to be accepted. They're gonna, they have determined that the individual homeowners own to the middle of the road. The road is not owned by the developer by the way the deeds are written. So there will be a number of takings mentioned in the article from each of the homeowners for the road.
Will the article have anything like, are we required to vote so that we have a in support or not in support, or no?
The way the process works, the select board is supposed to refer the article to us for our input. We do not have to take a vote on it. If we say nothing, it will still go forward. If we say we don't like it,
Right.
we get to raise that again at town meeting, but it does not stall the project. So,
The biggest person with an influence at town meeting is typically the DPW department. If the road's in good shape, usually it's a non-issue. If the road's in poor shape, that's a different story.
Well,
What's
since
the
we,
difference? What's the difference between this and Hawley off of anything?
not really. Conceptually, it's going to be the same type of taking.
Yeah. Okay.
In Hawley, the situation, again, the developer had walked away long ago and had just never asked to have it taken.
Uh-huh.
In that case, because of the length of time, I was able to stand up at town meeting and say Hawley Road was approved by the planning board before any of the current members of the planning board were in office.
Well, that was one of the reasons that prompted me to run. And the planning board actually did not approve that road. And it was overridden by someone from the state. So anyways.
Yeah. So
I think
Hawley,
you're speaking, it sounds better, Bill.
Hawley was just so lost in the mists of time that and it also was the primary access to our wellhead that the town just bit the bullet and took it and fixed the road.
Right. And when did we start holding a parcel, on the?
Well, we've always been holding them, but you get into this little gray area at some point. Once the road is completed, we hold the funds for completion of the road to town specifications, but we do not hold the money for acceptance of the road. So once it has been completed and gone through a year of full seasons as a completed road, the developer is entitled to ask for their money back.
And they would prove that they built it to town standards.
Yes, but once they do that, that is their obligation.
Okay.
Now you get a developer like Ron Bercume, who was doing continuing work in town. So once one road was done, he wanted to move on to the next road. He wanted to get rid of the burden of maintaining the prior road. So he would bring it to town meeting and say, please accept it. And if it was in good condition, or he sometimes agreed to make a few updates. But we just had this pattern going on where it was, excuse me, it was in the developer's enlightened self-interest to ask to have the road accepted.
Yeah.
And then we just had a couple of situations where you had someone who just disappeared. In the case of Birch Meadow, it was somewhat involuntary. There was a bankruptcy involved and ownership of the development changed hands. But that's the thing, that when you have a one-shot developer who has basically doesn't want to spend the extra to get the road, get the paperwork done. Yeah, bit of a snag, but I think we're working through this one.
Well, that street behind your house, Jim, looks like it's held up over the years.
Well, no.
Oh, no?
No, it's got a lot of repairs on it, and they've been crack sealing it the last couple of years. And you drive down that road, you'll see all the crack seals. So before it could be accepted as a town road, I would expect the DPW would want to see a top coat put on it.
Right.
I mean, it is almost 11 to 12 years old.
Yeah.
Granted, it hasn't seen a lot of traffic except for all the farm tractors that run up and down.
Yeah.
But there's some pretty big rigs that run up and down that road for farm tractors.
Yeah, I think it was paved when I lived over there.
Yeah. So it's been, and it's showing a little bit of age,
But when it was put in, did the developer have to adhere to any specifications, or did they just go in and do it?
Oh, no, it was built to town specs.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, it was built to town spec, but the problem is, any road after that number of years is gonna show
Yeah.
some wear and tear.
okay.
You know, I mean, you got utilities that run back and forth under the road and everything else, and no matter how good you put everything in, you're gonna see some cracks in the road. When
And
you
we
start
as a
running,
town would do
you know,
scheduled maintenance. Yeah.
You know, you start running the 10 wheelers that they run up and down the road with the farm equipment. There, like I said, there's some good sized equipment that runs on that road. Not a lot, but there's some good, there's some big stuff. So, for the town meeting, Ken gave us some stuff for, basically for special event venues. I'm gonna put them in the form of warrant articles and circulate them, make a few editorial changes that I think need to be done. And we need to discuss those. I would like to get them on a town meeting warrant for the annual, and the police and fire department and town administrator would also like to see those on the warrant articles before the next summer season comes along. Because they're trying to head off issues that are occurring at various places in town.
This may be a little tricky. Maybe Bill Dwyer wants to comment about the Asparagus Festival on the town common. How do we handle that within the our potential bylaw? You were discussing that today, Bill, right?
Yeah. So that's sort of a mega event, but only once a year. I think what the drafts we've looked at are more for recurring
Yes.
events. It's certainly something we can look at. I don't know, since it's town property and it's with the approval of the select board, and oversight from health, police, fire.
And they're not even townspeople that run that, right?
That's correct.
And we have to spend all that money with police, fire, and protection?
We don't have to. The select board chooses to.
Okay, that's.
Are there permits every year for the flea market down across from Norwalk?
That has not occurred for the last 3 years.
And they have a ZBA special permit or a variance to overrule zoning.
Oh, they have a variance to go back beyond the 300 feet. However, the police detail that is over there was paid for by the owner of the property every Sunday.
Anything from the building department this week?
No, I was just the Asparagus Fest. That's the feedback I've been getting is that, I don't think any of the asparagus, in the town of Hadley and a lot of complaints we had were they couldn't even get through to get to their land to farm because of the event. So it really seems to hurt the town, cost us money then, even though they are paying for the, police and fire. Still, we had a half hour in the meeting today that we discussed it, all the town people and town employees, and it gets nowhere. And the other thing I just wanted to mention is that select board did already receive for a entertainment license. They've already received it yesterday, I believe, or today, I should say, for one of the venues. So want to just we did discuss that, I guess, sometime. They're going to want some feedback as to how they should go about, issuing that in that location.
Okay.
That's on the common.
No, it's a different location that zoning wise, everybody would want to have a entertainment license if that's the case. That's the only bad thing with that issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
So
everybody wants to see the business do well, but it's
who sponsors the Asparagus Festival?
WGBH. It's a fundraiser for, or is it, what are they now? New England Public Media?
Yeah. Used to be FCR.
Well, I guess the federal government doesn't give them enough then, huh? So.
No, two.
And so the theme is we support your, if you want to put up a little cart in your front yard and sell your asparagus there, no one is concerned about that. It's if you want to do your own weekly asparagus festival in season, and you have 50 cars coming each week, we want to know that you have a spot to park them.
Well, you know, the whole notion of a town common means that it was for townspeople. Period.
That was to keep the cows there, Mike. You didn't want.
That was the fort that was built around
Well,
here to keep. the
Somebody from
indigenous people
Northampton
out here.
wasn't, my point is somebody, well, you get my drift.
Well, how many of the vendors?
Northampton wasn't bringing their cow over to graze, were they?
Well, we digress. I move we adjourn.
Anybody have any, before that, anybody have anything else? Hearing none, we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a second? All in favor? Aye. Meeting is history. Thank you, and thank you, Alex, and thank you, Tom.